Welcome, everybody, to episode 22 of the Practice Squad, a show where we talk about football and make the replacement refs look like pros. I'm your host and fourth string quarterback, Jeremy, joined each and every week by my co host and backup long snapper, Joseph. How's it going, man?
Good. We haven't talked in like what, 6 months now?
I know. It's like our friendship took a hiatus for that long. So, yeah, it's been a while. It's been almost exactly 6 months since our post Super Bowl episode.
Though we have talked obviously during then, guys.
Yeah. Hey, nobody needs to know. TMI. Okay, so this week we're doing a special preseason episode to talk about the NFL draft. Yes, we both understand we are 3 months too late, but better late than never. So we were actually planning on doing this episode a while ago, but my wife and I had a baby, and scheduling has been difficult. Minor life changes like that. So it's been a little bit challenging to get both Joseph and I synced up on a Monday, but we finally did it today, and we're super excited to talk about the draft. We're pumped up for the 2019 season, and we're getting started doing our planning for the regular weekly Monday episodes that are going to start sometime in the end of August, early September timeframe, right before the regular season starts up. So today we have three special topics in store for you. First, we're going to review all of the first round picks from the 2019 draft, putting on our GM hats, if you will, and giving our thoughts on the strategic wisdom of each one of them. Then the second topic we're going to discuss is to tell you basically which picks we thought were the best and worst of the first round. And lastly, we're going to do a brief recap from our favorite teams. I'll be covering the Niners, and Joseph will be covering the Dolphins draft. So we have a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and dive right into our first round draft strategy segment. And I'm going to go ahead and let Joseph go first. He cleverly discovered that the Dolphins are an odd pick, and the Niners were an even pick in the first round this year. So it only makes sense for Joseph to cover the odd picks and for me to start off with the even picks. So, Joseph, why don't you go ahead and start off with the number one overall pick of the 2019 NFL draft?
Peyton Manning. Sorry. Okay.
Not quite. Not
Yeah,
quite.
only about 15 years ago. Or 19 years ago. His brother was 15. Anyways, so the Cardinals GM. I'm thinking we have Josh Rosen. We gave him a shot, but you know what? He didn't prove out to be something special. We either want to give him some competition, or maybe we'll trade him, which we learned later on that he did. So unless someone is going to give me huge amounts of picks and talent for the number one pick, which doesn't seem like that many people are interested, I'm going to go for one of the best players out there and who's going to help my team. So go with Kyler Murray. I think this was a good pick. If people didn't know that Rosen was going to be traded, this was going to create some good competition amongst young quarterbacks with talent and upside, or this was going to be their starter to go forward with, and it's a good first pick.
So, do you feel like they gave Rosen enough of a chance?
No, but Murray, I think Murray is as good enough. It sounds like he has enough upside that you just go with it, right? And you saw that they ended up getting a decent amount of value out of Rosen to the trade. Like both teams in that trade got a good value, so it wasn't too risky. If there wasn't a strong number one quarterback in the draft this year, which there wasn't, then maybe not.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, okay. So yeah, I think you're positive on this pick. I think I had heard the rumors about Rosen like as the draft was starting to happen. So yeah, I
Okay.
think it makes some sense. Obviously I didn't think they were going to pick defensively because they have a decent defense, and even though this year's draft was stacked defensively, especially on the D line, quarterback was a question mark. So I think it's an okay pick. It's just they were stuck in a position where they couldn't really trade down because there was nobody until, what was it, the Giants at
Six.
number 6 that needed a QB.
Yeah.
So it would have been really expensive for the Giants to trade up, and so I'm sure the Cardinals tried, but it didn't work out for them.
Yeah, I mean, it if they kept Rosen, it would have been a trade in my opinion. But by trading Rosen and getting Murray, I give it a good a thumbs up.
Okay, I think I can give it a thumbs up, just maybe a little less enthusiastic than you.
Okay.
Okay, so number two, the Niners selected Nick Bosa, um, defensive end. I'm not going to say the college because I don't believe in that. So this wasn't a surprise at all. I defensive end was probably the biggest area of need outside maybe like secondary that the Niners had coming out of last season, and they absolutely needed to pick an instant difference maker. I thought they picked the best, who at least was rated to be the best defensive end in the draft. So I don't think I didn't feel like they, reached for somebody that shouldn't have been there like they did 2 years ago. So I thought this was just a solid kind of unexciting expected pick. I don't know. There's not much to analyze on this. It was just sort of known, I think, for a while that this was going to happen.
Yeah, and the thing is, while he needs to step in and be good, my opinion, he only needs to be like 80% of his brother for this to be a successful pick, because if they didn't have to trade up to get him, and you know, 80% would be like 10 sacks. I feel like so it'd
Right.
be better than
And
what
they
Tom
also
can
and they
get you.
also picked up D Ford in the offseason too, which helps a
Exactly.
lot. So okay. Number three.
All right, so the Jets go and get Quinn Williams. So especially considering that they had gotten Le'Veon Bell, um, this is a good pick, right? They have their future quarterback, their future running back. This is too early to try to get a wide receiver or some other talent to put around them. Trying to build their core, solidify their defense, and I believe that them and the Bills and the Dolphins can each have a stake um, in that division once Brady finally retires. um, so overall, I think this is a good pick, getting one of the best defensive linemen out there. So good pick.
Yep. I thought he's at number three, he was the best player available for a bad team that's maybe getting better, hopefully getting better, and fills a need. So it was the perfect pick for them, I thought. Okay, number four, Oakland Raiders selected Clelin Ferrell, defensive end. So my understanding at the time was that Clelin Ferrell was in the top like 4 or 5 defensive ends in the draft. So no surprise that not only a defensive end went here, but also that he went here. The Raiders obviously need big time help after they lost Khalil Mack to the Bears. They never got anybody to fill that position, so they need help there. So I thought it was a smart move. I'm really glad they didn't try to like trade up and do something stupid, like try to get Nick Bosa or something like that. I mean, when you have a draft that's this loaded with D line talent, if you're going to select a D lineman in the top like 10 picks, you really don't need to trade up. And luckily, teams were smart enough to see that. And the Raiders, I thought, picked a solid player that I think is going to impact right away. I was actually a little bit surprised that the Raiders, given I'm already going blank on his name, their new coach.
Gruden.
Yeah,
Gruden.
that Gruden, given his whole like I'm going pick happy thing with all the trades, I'm actually a little bit surprised, like 30% surprised that they didn't trade down for more picks here. Just because they knew they wanted a DE and there would have been more if they had traded down. Maybe they tried and nobody wanted to trade up. I don't know. The first trade up, so I noticed that, quick side note, the first trade up didn't happen until pick number 10. So I don't know. Maybe there were lots of discussions and nothing happened, or maybe every team just sort of knew, hey, this draft's loaded. We're just going to pick whoever's the best player is that fits our scheme at the time and not even bother trading.
Yeah, so the pick itself isn't bad. He's ranked as the third best defensive end and 21 overall, so maybe a little high relative to his value. My issue is that they didn't trade down. So it I guess try to separate the pick versus the strategy. So the pick itself, they needed a defensive end. Farrell's going to be good to replace Mac. I think that we'll get to Josh Allen in a minute. I think that they should have gotten him, but if he's gonna play the 3-4 outside linebacker anyways, and he can't play that position like Mac did when he switched, then maybe Allen might have been a better pick. But we'll get to 7 there in a minute. Yeah, they should have traded down and gotten either some more second round picks to try to get some more talent around Carr and Brown. But as for the pick itself, it's not bad.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page with you on that. Number 5.
Devin White, the number 1 ranked inside linebacker to the Bucks. Good pick. He's ranked 4th overall, and a little bit smaller guy, but fast. He's the inside linebacker, not middle. Bucks, they're sticking with Winston, and this is going to be a good way to solidify their defense because I know that they were bad last year. How many times did Fitzpatrick, or should I say Fitzmagic, they go off, the Bucks score 30-ish points, but they're losing a lot of games. Defense is the reason, so good pick.
Yeah, defensive pick was brain dead obvious here for them. I didn't know much about Devin White, so if he's a number 1, you said the number 1 rated linebacker?
Inside
linebacker, yeah, then that makes sense for them. I nothing really surprising there. The only I think thing that everybody was thinking was, are the Bucks going to try to pick up a QB somehow? But that didn't happen. There's a really slim chance that was going to happen, and I thought they went with a pretty safe, solid pick for number 5.
Especially after trading Fitzpatrick and keeping Winston. Like, they're clearly going to stick with him for at least another year or two. So getting a quarterback this year wasn't good.
Yeah, I think they can only. I think they should only give Winston 1 more year, but that's a separate discussion. Number 6 overall, New York Giants picked quarterback Daniel Jones. So first of all, no surprise at all that the Giants picked a QB. Whether Daniel Jones was the second best QB in the draft, I think that's debatable, but they obviously liked him, and when you like a QB, you go for him. I think they knew Murray was going to be off the board, especially with the Josh Rosen trade rumors. So, they didn't need to trade up because none of the previous 4 teams needed a QB. So they did the smart thing and they waited patiently and got their cream of the crop pick without giving anything away. So I thought strategy-wise, this was smart, if not obvious, what to do. And value-wise, I think they got the best value that they could have gotten.
Yeah, and I understand. I agree with the quarterback, but not. So I can understand them wanting to get Jones in particular. I understand. Okay, there's certain quarterbacks you want. I get that.
You think they should have traded down?
Yeah, I mean, or get a more talent piece here, and then get them later on because they had at least 1 more pick, 2 more picks. They had 2 more picks in the first round. And he was ranked as the 6th quarterback and 59th overall. That's the end of the second round. So how many other quarterbacks were taken in the first round? 1, Haskins for the Redskins. So I just don't feel like it's like they created artificial pressure on themselves that they had to get Jones now instead of wait for later. I think they should have either traded down or they should have gotten a higher talent piece, and they still could have gotten Jones at the end of the first.
So interestingly, the Giants didn't pick again until number 17. I don't know who would have traded up with them though.
So that's the thing. Even if they didn't trade up, they should have gone for a higher talent piece. They should have gotten Josh Allen. The next pick is Josh Allen because they end up getting their 17th pick was a defensive tackle out of Clemson, and we'll see later on he was an okay pick, good, but they could have gotten Josh Allen at 6, and then their 17th pick could have been Jones, and that would have been great. So it's not a bad pick per se. It fits what they wanted. They just had better. It's an opportunity cost. That's what it is.
Yeah.
If I was ranking it, I'd give it like a C+.
Okay. I think that's a little harsh just because I don't think I think they had to take a chance that nobody was gonna like they would have had to take a chance that nobody was going to pick a QB between 7 and 16, right? You know,
but not.
I think a lot of times these kind of picks are based on like they hear that other teams are interested in Daniel Jones and then they pick him to scoop him up, right?
Which the irony could be that could have been here like fake. That
Right, of course, right, of course it could have been, right? But
yeah.
I don't know.
All right, we don't know that. Without knowing that, I'll stick to my grade, but I'll give some leniency if that is an option.
Well, without knowing that, you should just speculate more, right? Baseless speculation. That's what this show's all about. We don't do facts here, guys.
All right. Well,
all right. Number 7.
We're about to do a fact here. Josh Allen, great pick. They go out and they get, oh my gosh, Nick. Why am I forgetting his name? The quarterback from the Eagles.
Nick Foles.
Yeah, Nick Foles. They had a great defense 2 years ago.
Who called that like 3 years ago?
Yeah, no, we've been trying to tell people.
We've been talking about Nick Foles to the Jaguars for a long time.
Yeah, it was Foles and Cousins. It was those two, yeah. Foles or Cousins, and it's about time. So you get your quarterback. They do have the talent on defense. Maybe they weren't going to return back to 2017 form, or 18, whatever. But the number 1 ranked outside linebacker. Big guy, strong. He's going to create a great presence. And yeah, just all around, I think this is one of the best picks in the first round.
I think it might have been the best swagger value pick.
Oh my gosh. Not in the script.
Yeah, I think, this was a good pick. They were patient. They waited. They got good value. Yeah, this was like a, I don't know. I feel like the A range picks for not only picks that were good value, but also involved good strategy. And I think this pick was just like a B+ because it was really high value, but was sort of a duh.
Okay, I'll give it an A-. I think, yeah, right, it is a duh, but they certainly could have blown it. Now, here's the thing. What if the Giants did get Allen? What would you do as the Jags then?
I don't know. I mean, I'm actually not super familiar with their position groups that have the most need. So if they were looking for an outside linebacker sort of, to sort of duel as a sack master guy, I don't know who else was out there that fits that bill. So I'm not sure what they would have done. There was that Rashawn Gary guy that got picked number 12. Maybe he would have been in there. Yeah, I'm not sure. So they did kind of, I guess, sort of luck out on that one. Okay, number 8, Detroit Lions pick up TJ Hawkinson. Hawkenloogie. So this was a weird one.
This is the real reason I didn't want to do evens first.
Because you didn't want to talk about how bad this pick was. So this is just confusing. They picked a tight end number 8 overall, which I don't know when. Even if you have like a monster tight end, how often do those guys go in the top 10?
Not often. What's scary is ESPN has him ranked as a 6th overall pick, which I want to figure that one out.
Yeah, that sounds weird. I guess they have a need at that position. I mean, what was weird to me was this draft was known to be loaded with D-line and wide receiver talent specifically. It was light on quarterbacks, and other position groups were sort of middle of the road. Detroit decided to skip out on all of that and use their pick on a tight end. Now, thank goodness they didn't trade up, right? But like, so they saw their opening here and they said, nobody else wants a tight end right now. We're going to get this guy. Fine. I get that. But so they're probably thinking they're all smart because they stayed with what they wanted. But at the same time, it's like, if you wanted him, they could have easily traded way down for this guy. I mean, the first wide receiver was not picked up, or the next tight end was not picked up until number 20 by the Broncos, who, by the way, did exactly what the Lions should have done, but we'll get to that in a minute. The first wide receiver wasn't picked up until the 25th pick. So the Lions could have easily traded down, made it seem like they wanted some, high-end defensive line pick, and then fooled people into getting that tight end later. Right? There's all kinds of things they could have done. This was weird to me. I give this one like a C, maybe worse, maybe like a C- or D.
I mean, it's probably a D plus C minus, but it's an A for creativity and confusion.
Yeah, you got that right.
I mean, if you're gonna pick something Matthew Stafford, he is a gunslinger. So he's not Tom Brady and I'm going to throw these 5 to 12-yard passes to Gronk and let him run over people. And Gronk is like a once-in-a-lifetime generation. So you can't just go out there and assume, oh, look at this guy. He's kind of built like Gronk. Maybe he's going to be like the next greatest tight end of all time. That's absurd. So if they're going to go for an offensive talent, why not get Marquise Brown, who the Ravens ended up getting, who was the number 1 all-ranked wide receiver, 11th overall, so getting him at 8's not that bad. And he's that speedster down the field guy that fits really well with Stafford. I mean, unless this tight end is like like a hybrid tight end and may have I don't know what his, combine experience was, but if he did more of like, if he's really athletic, and they might think, oh, look, it's the next Megatron. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking, and yeah, they should have traded down. So, definitely one of the worst picks of the draft.
Yeah, I totally agreed. Okay, number 9.
All right, so the Bills, they're building up. They have Josh Allen, who I think showed some promise last year. The Bills, if I was going to describe them, they were last year. They were edgy. And I think solidifying these necessary pieces, the defensive line is just one of those pieces where if the talent's out there and you have the pick, if you have your franchise quarterback, it's just a safe pick to go with. And you know what? They got him at a good price. They got the 2nd best overall defensive tackle, who was rated to be the 3rd overall pick from ESPN. So a lot of upside here. Just a good pick. I'd say probably a B plus.
Okay. I put on my notes, seems like a bit of a reach, but we're not exactly trusting of the Bills front office these days.
Oh, yeah. Never mind. All right.
I thought this was sort of, I don't know, like there were better guys that got picked after him. He's not a bad pick. He's not a bad pick, but
you mean better position wise or better like should have gotten a different position?
There were plenty more value picks than him at number 9. And now, as for defensive tackle, that's debatable. So if they really wanted a DT, maybe he was the best guy on the board left. I don't know. I feel like in the case of the Bills, when you're just sad, that you kind of pick, you kind of go for best player available, unless it's someone that you obviously have.
He was one of the best players available, though. I think he was one, especially if they're going for D line.
Okay, I don't know. I'm not totally sold on it. It's not a bad pick. I'd probably give this like a B minus.
I can accept that.
Well, you don't have to accept it. I can just do it.
Yeah, well, it's accepted. So.
Okay, number 10. The Pittsburgh Steelers traded up to swap places with the Broncos for Devin Bush, linebacker.
Reggie Bush's younger brother.
Wait, really? I actually didn't know that. Is that true?
I'm making that up.
Okay, because I was gonna say we don't do facts here, so I don't know why you would say that if it was true. So they traded up from 20 for a linebacker. I don't know much about this guy. Is he a like more of a Justin Houston kind of linebacker, or?
And he's a little bit smaller, but he's got speed and he's got talent, and he's picked similar. I mean, 2nd inside linebacker, 8th overall. But I'll give my analysis next. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just felt like this was costly for okay value.
Yeah, like if you're going to trade it up 10 spots in the first round, you are definitely going after the guy that you want. So then the begs the question, why did they want Devin Bush?
Yeah.
And it's not so he probably would have been a really good pick at 20. I know he's ranked 8th overall, but that feels a little high. Consider this for the Steelers. Maybe he is an 8th overall pick around there, but not for the Steelers. You lose Le'Veon Bell, you lose Brown. Roethlisberger's getting older.
I thought he was getting younger.
Yeah. I feel like you have to pull the trigger, right? You either better protect him better, or you go for that flashy offensive piece, and you hope that you have a mediocre defense, which they had last year, which showed some promise and could build up. But to me, this isn't enough like delta in value to overcome defensive issues, and it doesn't help with the offense, which is where they had the biggest depletion last year. So
yeah, I think they would have been way better off trading, like either just picking at 20 and keeping their later picks to get depth, or even trading slightly down from their 20th pick for 1 or 2 more picks to help out, because they're a team that needs a kind of an array of different positions. And yeah, this felt like for how high they were trading up, it wasn't enough value.
Yeah, and why not get one of the top tight ends or wide receivers? Like, to get that flashy pick. I mean, if Ben Roethlisberger is good at one thing, it's throwing downfield. So why not get that guy for him to replace Brown?
Right.
So, all right, number 11, probably one of the most irrelevant picks because it's for the Bengals, but Jonah Williams, offensive tackle. I mean, solid pick. I'd say I just keep it. It's good. They need to protect Dalton. I feel like they're only going to try to consider protecting him for one more year. I think just like Winston, he should probably get one more year. Sad news that AJ Green was quartered off the practice field a few days ago.
Oh no, really? I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah, it was either yesterday or a couple days ago.
Do they know what happened?
No, I didn't read into the article. I just saw the headline. So
man,
hopefully it's not a big deal, because that's the case. Yeah, that could change everything. But for them and where they're at, I mean, they needed pieces everywhere, right? They need offensive help. They need defensive help. But getting someone to protect Dalton, it's an okay pick. This is probably a B minus, C plus.
Okay. Yeah, I thought this was again, like you, I thought it sort of a solid pick, nothing exciting. I'm sure it's a position of need. And it was the first O-line pick of the draft, so they got their cream of the crop. So yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't like stupidly trade up or something. So they got what they needed when they needed it and didn't have to spend anything extra for it. It sounds like the injury is going to cost him 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, so that's like what, week 2?
No, I think it meant 6 to 8 weeks into the season.
Oh,
I think I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's what that meant.
That's gonna hurt bad.
Yeah, that is gonna hurt. But they weren't going anywhere anyway, to be fair. Number 12 overall, Green Bay Packers select Rashawn Gary, defensive end / linebacker, according to ESPN. So this guy was considered, I think, in the top 5-ish for edge rush talent. Packers need
number 2 defensive end.
Okay. Yeah, so the Packers need help on the D-line. This pick makes perfect sense. They didn't have to trade up to get him. The draft is loaded with this kind of talent. They did not need to force up a trade, so I thought this was a smart, safe, high-value pick. In fact, I'm actually kind of surprised this guy didn't go earlier. So they actually got lucky and maybe were dumb not to trade up. I don't know. In retrospect, like obviously they didn't need to, but at the time, do you think they probably should have traded up for this?
Um, don't think so. I mean, if they didn't pick him here, I feel like the Dolphins probably would have gotten him unless they wanted to stick with Wilkins. But so here's the thing: independent of the team, this is a good pick for where it's at. Once you consider that it's the Packers, though, I don't like it. I don't know. It feels wrong in my gut. I don't like this pick for the Packers. Um, the Packers have had defensive problems for years. They made several picks in the first couple rounds over the past years to get defensive value and talent. I feel like that they're in a little bit more desperate situation than people want to admit, and they needed to go for more of a flashier pick that could couple alongside Rodgers. Whether it was there wasn't many running backs in the field, but whether it was a tight end or wide receiver or just someone. I I know I'm sounding kind of subjective here, but I just don't think this was. The Packers should have gone more in and been a little more flashy. And while this is a good pick for defense, it's similar to what did I say for what team was it? Uh, the Steelers. It's a similar situation to the Steelers where probably should have went for it more to get an offensive piece.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I kind of disagree with you on this one. I think their offense is in need of, sort of the higher end, like high octane talent, but their defense needs a lot of help. So I think I would have done either one of two things, neither of which were this pick. Although I to be fair, I did say I liked it, which means that I think it was good value.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think the two things that I probably would have done instead were, one, pick a wide receiver, because nobody had picked a wide receiver, so they could have gotten whoever they wanted, or traded down to try to get more defensive picks. Picking one star guy when your whole defense is pathetic isn't always the best move, and I think in their case maybe a plethora of picks would have been better. But you're right that they have tried to pick up lots of defensive pieces over the last several years, and they've gone absolutely nowhere. So, except for HaHa Clinton Dix, who got traded. So, I don't know. I'm sort of stuck on this one. I'd probably give this one like a B.
Yeah, I think it's easily a B value pick, but it's like a C Packers pick. If that makes sense.
I think that's fair.
All right, so 13, Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle for the Miami Dolphins. Love this pick. And at first I was like, okay, not bad. I didn't know what we were doing when I saw this pick, if we're going to try to get a quarterback or not. But the more I thought about it, looked into it, like I really like this pick. Third ranked overall defensive tackle.
Wait. Hold on. At first you were furious because you thought they were going to pick a quarterback here and they didn't.
Yeah. Like I was like, what's going on? Yeah. And then after I found out,
evolved.
Yeah, and then I've come to really like this pick because I thought they were being too conservative, and turns out they weren't. But here's the thing: did you think that they had already spoken with the Cardinals at this point? Was that rumor already happening?
So all I had heard was that Rosen was in trade talks. I didn't know that it was with the Dolphins.
Okay. Because at first it was like, what are they doing? But then you see it's like, well, this is a good value pick, right? He's ranked third defensive tackle. Like Jeremy said, this was a loaded D-line draft, 7th overall, proven guy at a big college, and fills a need that the Dolphins had to have. And if they didn't get him, then I would have been happy with Rashawn Gary as well. So, very, very good pick. One of my best in this round, I think, and in terms of value and need and where they got him. And I'm so glad the Dolphins have been. When we had that specialty segment, I forgot which episode, but we went over each team's draft. The Dolphins have been one of the worst teams of the past decade or so in draft. So it was good to see them not make too big of a mistake here and actually get a good pick. So I'd say probably a B plus A minus to be honest.
Yeah, I think this is a solid value pick. I don't know much about this guy specifically, but I mean, there weren't that many tackles taken before him. He's probably going to give you guys good value. And then once I heard more about the quarterback situation, I was like, okay, yeah, this actually makes a lot more sense in retrospect. So I'd probably give this one like a B plus, I think. All right. Number 14, Atlanta Falcons, Chris Lindstrom, offensive guard. Going for this is a needs based pick, I think. Second O-line pick of the draft, so you're getting whoever you want -1. I did have to kind of look at their stats to sort of get a sanity check on this. So they had the 27th best rush offense and the 13th most sacks allowed. So the offensive line was definitely a position that needed improvement. So I think this is a fair place in the draft to do that. I don't know much about their defense right now. I know they have some good pieces, so maybe picking a D lineman may not have been the smartest move here. So I think in their case, sort of the opposite of the Packers. It's like a okay value, but even better value because it's the Falcons. Whereas the Packers, it was the opposite of that.
Yeah, I mean, tackles are valued more than guards, but he was the number 1 guard in the draft, and it's that specific position that he wanted. Yeah, I think this is a solid B.
Yeah,
safe but good.
I think that's fair. All right, number 15.
Dwayne Haskins. So there was speculation about, would he be the first quarterback picked overall, and people were comparing, size versus experience versus athleticism and so forth. I think this is a solid pick. The Redskins, they lost Cousins, and that experiment, it didn't fail, I think, on Cousins' ends. I think he fought hard, played pretty well for what he had, and the Redskins just failed to really embrace him. They never really accepted him, it felt like, and didn't build around him. So they need to get a quarterback. Ironically, he's actually ranked as 15th overall, so it's right there. But I think good pick. You had to get someone, and yeah, so I'd say this is probably a B.
Okay. Yeah, I think given the whole Alex Smith situation, with his injury, I think they needed to look elsewhere. So picking a QB here made sense, a lot of sense. Glad they didn't trade up for it. Their defense is strong, one of the best in the NFL, very quietly. And so I think trying to reinforce that position was smart without trading up for it. So I thought this was actually a very high value pick. I actually think this was one of the better picks of the first round.
Okay. Would you give it an A minus then? A?
I think I would give it an A minus.
Okay.
Probably. That's independent of whether he turns out, which again, with quarterbacks, I feel like you kind of have to give your grade before you know how they're actually going to play, to be fair. Okay. Number 16, Carolina Panthers select Brian Burns, defensive end. I don't have much to say about this. I guess this is a depth pick. I mean, I don't really know. The Panthers have been so up and down the last couple of years. I don't really know the state of their D-line. I guess they need help there. So if they do, this pick makes some sense. I don't know much about Burns, so I'm not going to say a whole lot on this because I don't really feel like it didn't move the needle for me.
So ESPN gave a great post-draft analysis on this. They said Carolina ranked 27th in sacks with 35 less season. Julius Peppers retired this offseason.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah, and Luke Kuechly, he's had issues with concussions and so forth, and so I think this is just a solid pick. They got what they need, and it's kind of like what the Bengals did. So
yeah,
solid
that's
pick.
fair. All right, number 17.
Yeah, Dexter Lawrence, big defensive tackle out of Clemson. So the Giants, good to get defense. They need to build around there. I feel like they paid a little too much for him. 5th overall defensive tackle, 26th overall. Don't know if they thought that he was going to go somewhere else or if they think that this is their guy. But it does say here in the post-draft analysis, the Giants dealt Damon Harrison to the Lions, so they need to replace him, I guess. So I'd say a B minus for this pick.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this was one of their first round picks they got from the Browns, I think. From the Odell Beckham trade.
Oh, that's right, the Odell. That's right. So I guess
Yeah.
so for that, then yeah, this is a solid piece.
Yeah, I think so. Given that they got it in a trade, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Um okay, number 8, Minnesota, or 18, sorry. Minnesota Vikings selected Garrett Bradbury, center. Okay. Like they need a center apparently, and they took it at 18. That's fine. I I don't know. I think their O line was one of their weaker position groups, so I feel like
30th in
anytime
rushing
I see a
yards.
team pick an O lineman in the middle of the first round, it's almost always just a needs based pick, right? You don't need to trade up for it, but at the same time, you really need that piece, so you pick it at your spot.
Yeah, I mean, he was ranked 30th. The Vikings ranked 30th in rushing yards last season. He was the number one center, so it's kind of like the Falcons going for the number one guard, and like he has a pretty good ranking. So, uh, solid B minus pick for what they needed.
Okay. Number 19.
All right, Jeffrey Simmons, defensive tackle for the Titans. I think this is a good pick. The Titans have a lot of holes, and they need to fill them. I think this guy will have a lot of upside. Um, good value pick for where he was, and definitely was a need. So I'd say probably a B or B plus.
Yeah, same here. I don't have a whole lot of comment on this. Seems like a common sense pick. Um, okay, number 20, Denver Broncos. This was their trade down with the Steelers. Select Noah Fant, tight end. Uh, what can I say? It's what the Lions should have done. um, so they traded down to pick up a tight end. Number 20 overall. Not a terrible spot to pick a tight end. Uh, they have a solid D. They're in need of some offensive help, so it makes sense. I think Fant was rated. Was he the second? He was the second tight end, right?
Second tight end and 12 overall.
Yeah. So they got positive value. So
Yeah, I just don't like this pick for the Broncos. I think he's good value. I actually maybe I'm being too harsh. I have this as one of my worst picks in this rounds.
oh really?
Yeah, for the Broncos, you know,
Is it because of Jake Butt?
I, considering the drama with John Elway, and I feel like they just again needed to make a splash. You're right, they didn't. They either should have paired up someone defensively with Von Miller, right, to have even more dominant defense, or gone for someone downfield. Who knows? This guy, maybe he's more like those hybrid tight ends, right? Kind of like a Kelsey or Ertz. So if that's the case, then I won't complain. But without knowing that, I will give criticism.
Okay, I think we just need to know how Jake Butt turns out.
Okay. All right, number 21.
No, I'm actually dead serious about that. Didn't they
I
draft Jake Butt last year?
I don't know. But we're going on number 21.
No, we're not going on to number 21. Hold on. The significance of this pick is greatly tied to Jake Butt. It is. Because Jake Butt was their tight end pick last year. I don't think he was a first round.
You're just finding excuses to say his
I
name.
don't. No. I don't think he was first round, but he was. I think a relatively high pick last year, and for them to spend a first round pick even after a trade down on a tight end again this year means that they really, really, really want this guy.
All right, tell you what. You look him up right now because I'll have more to say on Darnell Savage Jr. because Jake Butt.
Thank you.
Yeah, see, our audience, exactly what's going on there. All right, so 21, Darnell Savage Jr., safety from Maryland, from Seattle Packers. So, you know what? Decent value pick, second overall. Packers do need help here. I think this is a good pick. And while Jeremy's looking up where Jake went, then I want to comment on some defensive players' names. There's some great names in this draft, and they happen to be in the secondary. So here, at number 21, you have Darnell Savage Jr. All right, and then
Oh, actually, real quick. So let me interject here with more Jake Butt. So the Broncos selected Butt in the 5th round.
Oh yeah,
of
first round pick.
No, okay, hold on, so stop. In the 5th round of the 2017 NFL draft, Butt was the 8th tight end drafted in 2017. So he was low down there. But he had an ACL last year. So they need help at that position. When you don't have a Butt, then you need help.
Back to great defensive secondary names. In the 2nd round, at the 34th pick, cornerback for the Colts, we have Rock Ya-Sin. That's a great name. And then, ironically, if you want to compare Sin with the next one, the 46th pick in the draft, Greedy Williams, also cornerback.
No. Jake Butt says, "Hold my beer," on both of those names. Okay, so let me comment real quick on Packers Darnell Savage. What can I say? They lost HaHa Clinton Dix. They need secondary help. They did trade up to get this guy. They traded up. The Seahawks were supposed to go 21. So I think it was good value, but maybe they didn't need to trade up because the next 4 picks were offensive picks.
Yeah, no, that's true.
The Raiders did pick Jonathan Abram, safety, in 27. So I don't know. Savage was the number 1 rated safety, though, right?
2.
Oh, who was number 1? Was
it
Jonathan Abram?
Yes, Jonathan Abram. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
For whatever reason, they didn't want him. So, all right.
Okay, number 22, Philadelphia Eagles via trade with the Ravens. So they swapped 22-25 for Andre Dillard, offensive tackle. Again, smart given that the Texans went next and also picked a tackle. So,
well, that and yeah, their left tackle now is older and he had a big injury a couple years ago, and Wentz is coming back. So
yeah. So they must have known the Texans were going to pick up the best guy available, so they traded up to get this guy. I think this was probably like a B pick, solid.
Well, the Texans. Well, I'll just jump right in. The Texans actually didn't get the best guy available, which is interesting. They got the 6th. The best guys didn't go to the 2nd round actually. So this is just maybe a pick that they wanted, they wanted him specifically.
Best is subjective, Joseph.
So the Eagles pick is a B-, and as for Titus Howard to the Texans, I'd say
like a C+.
Yeah, C+ or B-. Getting a tackle here was good for them. So maybe without knowing more about why they got him instead, but again, at some point Jeremy's right about the subjectivity, but they had to have a specific reason to get him instead of some of the other highly rated tackles. So I give it a C+-ish, B-.
Okay. So number 24, Oakland Raiders select Josh Jacobs, running back. They traded up with the Bears, so they actually traded. The Bears did not pick in the 1st round. So I think they traded out of the 2nd, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how the mechanics of that trade worked out, but they traded up to get a running back. No running backs had previously been selected, so they got who they wanted. I don't know if Jacobs was the 1st rated, was he?
Yes.
Okay. So they got the 1st rated, they got who they wanted. It did cost them a little bit though, so this one seems a little bit suspect because there was no running back demand up to this point. But 24th overall to pick up the best rated running back is not terrible.
No, and they were bad in rushing last year.
Yeah, they were horrendous.
and Marshawn Lynch retired,
Yeah,
so
they needed help there for sure. They needed not just help; they needed like their cornerstone piece.
yeah. So number 25, we have Marquise Brown, wide receiver from Oklahoma, speedster, to the Baltimore Ravens. So I really like this pick. This is one of I know we get to our segment later about the best picks, but this is one of my best picks. Fast guy, explosive. We'll see if Jackson can work with him. I know that we had like Jackson, but don't know if his team's gonna fit well and be able to be sustainable in the NFL. But if he does, and he can develop some chemistry with Brown, then the Ravens with that defense, they might overtake the Steelers if that happens. So I really like this pick. This is an A minus at worst. Oh,
Yeah.
and they got the number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. No, I thought this was a genius pick. They traded down. They got the first wide receiver off the board, the best wide receiver off the board. They really need the help. There isn't anything that they could have done better here. This was, in my opinion, as close to a perfect pick as you can get. This one gets an A from me.
Yeah.
Number 26, Washington Redskins via trade with Colts, who I guess also traded out of the first round.
So the Redskins traded up or down?
The Redskins traded up
to
get Montez Sweat, defensive end, who I think was also in the top 5.
Yes, 4th defensive end.
So I thought he was going to go higher in the draft. So actually, this seems like kind of like a steal, actually, given how late he was picked.
I think did he have an injury? I thought I heard about him. So I feel like something happened.
He might have.
I'm not exactly sure, because I thought the same thing too. He was going to go higher.
So this feels sort of like a Reuben Foster of 2017 kind of pick, where the Niners picked him. They traded up and they picked him like 31st in the first round, and everybody thought he was going to be really good, and he had the talent, but ended up being a flop. So I don't know. It could be something like that, but I think this was a slightly risky but worth the risk pick for them.
Yeah, I think it gives them good upside. I think I'd give him probably a B or B minus.
Same here. All right, number 27.
Jonathan Abram, safety for the Raiders. So they needed help here, and they got the number one safety. So one thing we were thinking, not just us, but the football world was wondering, how is Jon Gruden and the Raiders going to deal with all these first round picks? And looking back at it now, I actually think did all right. We think that they should have traded down from number 4, but they got a good defensive end. They get the number 1 running back and the number 1 safety at decent value positions. So that's pretty good. So hopefully they can live up to their talent. I'd give this pick. Looks like they traded from Dallas. I don't know if they traded up or down. Do you know
that? I don't.
Okay, but they did trade from
Dallas. But given that
Dallas
didn't pick in the first round, they must have traded up.
Yeah.
No. You know what? No, this was the. I think this was this an Amari Cooper? Pick?
I think you're right. I think this might have been the Cooper one.
Yeah, I think this was a Cooper pick.
So I'm going to give this a B plus. B or B plus for what they need for value, need, and picks in first round. I think that's where they're sitting at. No real complaints there. Well, what else were they going to do?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there was much else they could do. They need help at safety. They got good value here. So, yeah, I thought at the end of the day, Gruden had a pretty good first round. Everybody was, suspicious, but I thought he did a pretty good job. So we'll see how those picks turn out. Number 28, Chargers select Jerry Tillery, defensive tackle. This is another one of those picks. Like, I don't know where Tillery ranked, but I guess they need depth. They already have a D line that's pretty good. I was actually a little surprised that they didn't go with a different position group.
I don't like this pick. I don't for the Chargers. They make a splash, do something. You got a first round pick. You have a good team. Rivers is getting older. You got your star running back. You have a decent wide receiver core.
That is a good point. They have a closing window.
Exactly, very closing window. Do something. I mean, how many years now have we heard in the preseason. The Chargers are a preseason favorite for the playoffs or the Super Bowl. Like so many years, the Chargers are a favorite to do well, and they don't meet that mark. So they have this window. They need to take it because the Chiefs are just going to get better, right? And until Brady leaves, then they're the favorite in the AFC. So do something with this. It's not, in a vacuum, this isn't a bad pick, but in the context of the Chargers and where they're at, what they could and should do, man, I think this is a C minus D plus for the strategy. I don't like this pick.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page as you on that one.
All right, 29 is L.J. Collier, defensive
I think
end.
it's Collier.
Oh, he's French.
Well, I think the last name isn't pronounced Collier, like Collier Greens. It's L.J. Collier.
Wait, I don't think that's how you spell Collier Greens, is it?
No, I'm kidding. But gosh, man, you got to get your Seattle 29th overall defensive end pick names pronunciation right. Gosh.
LJ, I think this is a safe pick, right? I mean, we read that, we got that article from last year how they, a lot of defensive injuries. Now they played surprisingly well for how much missing talent they had from either trades or free agency or so forth. But they needed to solidify that defense, and they've already made their decision. They gave Wilson a huge contract, and they're going with him. So this probably wasn't the best time to go for a wide receiver. And I'd say B minus.
Yeah, so this was interesting because they lost. Oh gosh, they lost a piece. Was it? No, they already didn't have Michael Bennett last year. Who was the piece? They lost a piece on their D line last year.
Frank Clark.
Oh, that's right. They lost Frank Clark. So they that position left a void. But at the same time, Doug Baldwin also retired. So
that deserves its own segment.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I actually think a wide receiver pick here might have been smarter. This is okay. This isn't bad. It was an either or situation because both were pretty big needs that were suddenly like open and needed to be filled. So I'm sure they thought it's either going to be this guy or a receiver. We're just going to pick the best guy available, and they picked this guy is probably what they're thinking. So I don't know. Either way, I think they got good value late. This was a B pick for me.
Okay. Well, this seems like this. They got this from Kansas City, so I think this was their Frank Clark grade pick.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean they had to pick a defensive end with it.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. Either or. Question is,
they did pick a receiver later. I don't remember who it was in the second round, I think.
All right, go ahead. Go next.
All right, number 30, New York Giants via multiple trades. DeAndre Baker, cornerback. This is, I believe, another Beckham-based pick. They picked the first cornerback in the draft, went number 30. I thought this was kind of a reach, actually, for a draft that was not loaded with cornerbacks. I think a wide receiver would have been a smarter pick here, or something to help out a new quarterback. Because if they had picked a wide receiver, that would have been the second wide receiver pick. So they could have gotten pretty much anybody they wanted. So I don't know. What do you think about this one? I feel like this is like a C plus, maybe.
I'm thinking C. I might even maybe a C pick and a C minus strategy. Like this is kind of meh. I mean, the Giants, if they're gonna go with Manning, here's the thing. To me, they should have gone an offensive tackle, right? Offensive line. There was still a lot of great offensive tackles on the board. I'll just give my I'll get that during the Dolphins analysis, but there's still plenty of tackles on the board. And the thing about that is that's going to help an older, slow Manning and a younger, developing quarterback. It doesn't matter who you put out there. A top offensive tackle is going to be a good piece for whoever quarterback you put out there. So getting the 4th-ranked cornerback in the first round is just, why?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Why?
All right, so the Falcons here again at 31 needed offensive line help. They go for it. They get the eighth best offensive tackle according to ESPN, 73rd rank, but he's a large guy but he has shorter arms for his height, which sounds like that's one of the downsides. But he must have been the kind of guy that they want for their team and their chemistry. So, without trying to dig too much into did they lose too much value or whatever? They needed to pick here, and getting a tackle is good. So I'd say this is, a B minus. Okay with that.
Yeah, I think that's fine. It was their second O-line pick of the first round, though.
Yeah, that they just they you know
So
what
I guess
they
they
went
really felt like they needed help there.
they went all in with Matt Ryan. So right, and they still have decent wide receiver core. So it kind of makes sense.
If I was a Falcons fan, I think I might be a little bummed by this.
Well, yeah, people want to get more with the flashy picks, but I think
Well, not even flashy, but just like helping another position. I don't know. You have two first round picks, and you pick two offensive linemen.
yeah. I mean, if they feel that they can get them working together, good chemistry, and really protect Matt Ryan, who had some protection issues last year, then yeah, it's solid.
All right. So the final pick was the New England Patriots doing what the New England Patriots do best, which is either pick late in the first round, excuse me, or they trade out of the first round and get also good value. So they picked N'Keal Harry, wide receiver, widely, no pun intended, considered one of the better wide receivers on the draft board. Not surprising, very good value. They didn't even need to trade up to get this guy. I think the Niners were considering this guy. So they did what they always do here. They got great value late.
Yeah, I mean, ESPN has a good post analysis here. Gronkowski retires. Josh Gordon is suspended indefinitely. Chris Hogan goes to Carolina, and Patterson goes to Chicago. They needed some wide receivers.
Yeah.
And yeah, good value here. This guy, so to me, this guy's either going to be a bust or he's going to be like 1,200 yard receiver and might get rookie of the year. Like Brady's going to develop him. I think they're going to have good connection. I think he's going to be like the number one target for him, and I could see it doing really well. Great value, as they always do. I would say probably B for the pick, but A for the Patriots strategy.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, so that concludes our draft strategy from the first round. Hope you enjoyed our analysis. Our second second segment of the night, a much shorter segment, is our favorite and least favorite picks of the first round. So I will start off with my least favorite pick of the first round, and that was the number 8 overall pick, the Detroit Lions picking a tight end when they totally didn't need to. We've already gone into why this was a bad pick, but so I'm not going to go over it again. But that was my least favorite pick.
So I made a list of 4 best and 3 worst, and I've been changing as we've been talking. And I settled on this one being my worst as well, 8. So.
All right. Out of curiosity, what were your other 2?
I had the Raiders at 4 with Farrell, not because of the pick, because of the strategy we talked about and trading down. But after talking about it, I was like, I think it was better. And then the Noah Fant one, you're right, that's what the Lions should have done. And while that's not a great pick, it's not the worst. I don't think it's worthy of being there. So I think the 8th pick is like by far the most clear worst pick.
Okay. All right, and then my favorite pick of the draft was the Ravens trading down to number 25 to get the first wide receiver of the draft.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly name them. I have 3 or 4 here. They're very close, but I'll go in order. So number 7 with Josh Allen, the linebacker to Kentucky, very good. 13, Dolphins pick, Christian Wilkins. Big fan of that. As Jeremy said, number 25, I think this is, yeah, I think this is, if you had to pick up number one, I think this is the best pick of the draft. And then, as we just talked about, at the Patriots, number 32, I like this draft for them, getting N'Keal Harry. So those are my best picks of the draft.
All right. So our final segment of tonight is a quick overview, because we're running a little bit over tonight. A quick overview of how we felt the Niners and Dolphins drafts were. So I'll go ahead and start with the Niners. I'm going to name all of the picks, but I'm not going to do like a deep analysis on all of them. Overall, I felt like the Niners hit on some good points. I thought they picked up some good talent. It wasn't necessarily a flashy draft outside of the Nick Bosa pick, but it was number 2 overall, so it sort of needs to be. So I was really happy that they addressed defensive end and wide receiver, because those two were two big positions of need. However, cornerback and safety were also huge areas of need that were generally not addressed, which was disappointing. So in round 1, they picked Bosa. Round 2, they picked wide receiver Deebo Samuel. Again, he fills that need. So they decided to go with defensive end, wide receiver, first 2 off the bat. Round 3, they picked up another wide receiver who's sort of this big-bodied guy that can kind of double as a running back. So if they can use him in a versatile way, I mean, he'll add value. But they already have a really strong running back core. And so I didn't feel like this pick necessarily added much value. I was really hoping that they were going to go for a corner here. But they ended up not doing that until round 6, picking up Tim Harris. So that was disappointing. And then they picked in round 4, they picked a punter, Mitch Wishnowsky, which I thought was a reach. I think anytime you pick a punter in round 4, that's a little bit of a reach, generally speaking. Now, they don't have a punter. And they need one, obviously. So they thought this was the number 1 rated punter, and I mean, like I said, it was just a little bit of a reach, but they did fill a need. So hopefully he turns out good. Hopefully he's the best punter in the league or something. I don't know. That's what you hope with a pick that high. And then they picked up some depth at linebacker. They picked up some depth at tight end behind Kittle. And they picked up a tackle for more depth. So they really went for fill 2 positions that needed it, and then the rest of it was pretty much depth. I get that you can't address everything in one draft. The Niners do need more things, but I think this draft was good enough to put them in a position where they can compete. They're going to be in the discussion for a wild card. I don't necessarily think they're going to get a wild card, but I think they'll be in the discussion of teams that are good enough to get a wild card. So overall, I was happy with it. Again, it's never perfect, but I'd probably give them like a B+ for their draft.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as for the punter, I mean, unless he punts at like 75 yards, then yeah, it seems a little high.
Yeah.
So for the Dolphins, kind of read off my notes here. So first pick is very solid at Christian Wilkins. We needed help on the defensive line because it was clear we weren't trading up for a QB, and we needed a talented player. And choices were either offensive line or D line. And offensive line seemed a little deeper at that point, considering 5 D linemen had already been drafted, whereas only 1 offensive lineman had been drafted. We come up to the second round, and there were many OTs left on the board. And I thought it was going to be pretty clear that we were going to get one. And then 4 offensive tackles got taken in the first 9 picks of the second round. I was pretty devastated. These guys just kept falling off the board. Like, we're not going to get a tackle. And then I see that we traded down, and then we traded down again. I was like, well, what's going on here? And then come to find later that we got Josh Rosen. So then our next pick was in the 3rd round, and we get Michael Dieter, an offensive guard, and a 78th pick. Fair value for where we got him. Though he's not a dominant tackle. No, he's from Wisconsin. They produce good offensive linemen. He's a guard. We need him. That's good. Our last 4 picks were all late picks. 1 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, and 2 in the 7th. Don't have their names here. Don't really expect much to get out of them. But we did get But I do like our 5th-round pick and 6th-round pick. They're a linebacker and an offensive tackle, and I think that they have potential upside. So it's something where you don't have a high expectation. So if there's any success, it's going to have high value. So I have hopes for that. We'll see. The best thing we did for this year's draft, though, in this year's draft, was for next year's draft. We have many picks for next year. We did some trades. We'll get some compensatory picks, if I'm saying that right, from trades of like Wake and Amendola and so forth. So I think we have like 10 picks next year.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, I know
Wow.
a lot of them are later on, but I think we have multiple 2nd and 4th round picks. And we'll see if we get another 3rd round pick from the compensation. So I'm excited for next year's. Getting Wilkins was good, and getting a decent guard is okay. We'll see how they can protect Allen or Fitzpatrick, depending on whoever starts. But for what we did this year for next year, I'm kind of happy. So yeah, B to B plus, what I'll give them.
Nice. Well, finally starting to turn their draft woes around, it sounds like.
Yeah, 20 years is not too long of a time, so I guess now's the time to start.
All right, so that's a wrap for our 3 segments tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. If you did enjoy tonight's episode or any of our past episodes, please like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube, as those are free ways for you to support our show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at The Practice Squad and at Neuralizer_. Just as a reminder, if you've missed past episodes, you can watch or listen to them right here on my YouTube channel. As always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Peace.